Gary R. Wagers, United States Navy, EN-3SS, that's Engineman 3rd Class, Submarine Service. I was assigned to the USS Spinax, SS-489. I was the only one in my sub-school that had a submarine that was not here stateside. Sub had already left for WestPac. My orders read Yokosuka, Japan. And I thought, boy, I'm going to get stuck being home ported in Yokosuka, Japan, but as it turned out, the Spinax was home ported in San Diego, and she'd already left for a 9-month deployment. I said sub-school was in New London. I drove home to Ohio. I was there, I think maybe a week or two they give me transit time. Then I flew from Columbus, Ohio to Travis Air Force Base in California. Received a real surprise there. I'd never been overseas before, and they looked at my shot cards and stuff and told me to go in that room over there that the corpsman would take care of me. They looked at my service record. They told me to roll up both my sleeves and drop my pants. I got 3 shots in this arm, 3 shots in this arm, 3 in the left hip, and 3 in the right hip, and I got on an airplane that left for Japan. It was a rough trip, to say the least. We did stop over in Pearl for fuel or whatever for maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, but yeah, that was, I got my shot record brought up to date real quick. So I caught up with her in the Philippines. When I got to Yokosuka, it wasn't there, so they flew me from Yokosuka down to Subic Bay. I spent a couple weeks down there when it finally pulled in. I didn't really know a lot about what to expect other than what I'd seen in sub school. They took us out when we was in sub school. We went out on a sub for the afternoon, went out to sea and dove and stuff, but didn't really know, like I said, other than watching the movies and stuff, and that's kind of some of that Hollywood stuff is far-fetched. So I didn't really know what to expect as far as, you know, what was going to take place and what it felt like, you know, to snorkel and different things like that, you know, different operations and stuff. That was all stuff that I learned later on with experience, you know. Like I said, I was an engineman, so I worked back in the engine room as what they called an oiler. That was like an apprenticeship type thing. Probably the biggest thing to do on a sub is to get qualified. And when you first report on board, you're considered a non-qual. You're pretty much at the bottom of the ladder. And it takes roughly a year to get qualified. You have to be able to operate every piece of equipment to the satisfaction of the qualifying engineer that takes you through. They specialize, they expect you to know a lot more in detail on the exact rank that you are. In other words, like for me, an engineman, I had to know everything in there in the engine room and stuff. My quals was held up for a little while because we went in a shipyard in San Francisco at Hunters Point, and that delayed me from getting my qualifications just when I should have, because in the shipyard I had everything all tore apart, so I couldn't operate anything. But it was a plus too, because we got to see, you know, underneath the sub, up inside the tanks, things that you wouldn't normally see. So it was kind of a plus, but it made it longer. But once I got out of the shipyards and stuff, my walkthrough with the engineering officer, he took me back in the after engine room and shut off all the lights, no flashlight, and told me to start number 3 engine. I had to do everything by feel. And got that fired up and did the rest of the walkthrough, and we left. We was on our way to ADAC. They threw me overboard. That's part of our qualifications. They threw you overboard, so I was thrown overboard in ADAC, and the water was extremely cold. But that's when I got qualified. Once your qualifications are finished on board, then you're considered part of the crew, because that gives you the right to rescue and save the lives of your shipmates. So qualifications is very, very important, and everybody goes through it. It's something everybody has to do. Like I said, I did 3 WestPac tour, 2.5. Missed out the first month or so of the the first WestPac, but we went back 2 other times, and those lasted around 9 months. And they did a northern run up Bering Straits up in there. I was what they call a fuel king on board my last year and a half. Had responsible to take on all the fuel and lube oil. I carried 113,000 gallons of diesel fuel on board. Had to fill out a report every day to the captain to make sure that we had enough fuel to get underway and everything. Probably the best thing, the 2 best things on board, I'm going to say, is the camaraderie amongst your shipmates and the food. We had excellent food. We had as much to eat as we want, almost whenever we wanted it. You know, we always had plenty to eat, and I guess that was part of the Navy's way of keeping people happy. When you're well fed, why, things go smoothly. The rest of the time, like I said, it was a learning experience. Probably the biggest thing that you do without is fresh water. When we went to sea, as soon as you get to sea, the showers are shut down, so you don't have the opportunity to take a shower every day. I mean, you basically draw a small bowl of water and do a sponge bath type thing. Being in the engine room, we had the ability to take saltwater showers back there. I guess it was better than nothing. But as far as the claustrophobia and stuff like that, and the amount of space, that never bothered me. Probably the biggest thing was the water. And I made a vow to myself when I got out of the Navy, that when I established myself in the civilian life, I'm going to have really, really good water, because I spent a lot of time, you know, months on end without being able to take a fresh water shower, and that's. But you learn, you know, everybody's the same way. I mean, so you're not singled out. I mean, that's life on board a sub. On the diesel boats, now the nuke boats, they've got as much water as they want, but fresh water. But we had to boil water, distill it, and that was part of the operations in the engine room too. So we made our own fresh water from seawater that we boiled. Probably one of the, I'm going to say probably the most memorable ones was when we come back from our last deployment in WestPac. We pulled into Pearl Harbor, and he was filming the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. And the Spinax was used in that movie. About 3/4 of the way through the movie, there's 2 guys that walk back on the deck, and they dive over the side when they're putting colors up and stuff. So the Spinax got to be in that movie, and that was interesting to see how they did all that. There was a lot, like I said, there was a lot of memorable places we went to, different things that we seen, different operations that we took part in. But that was something that, you know, you can tell your buddies or whatever, you know, the boat was in the movie, you know. And then the sub's been decommissioned, so it's not around anymore, but we can always watch that movie and see a little glimpse of it. So I got out early. When we come back on our last WestPac, if you had less than 6 months of time to go, you had your choice of taking an early out. I made that cut by about a week and a half. I was married at the time, so I opted to take the early out. So I got out 6 months early. I returned back to Ohio, where I came from. Went back to work at the same place, which was Borg Warner at the time. Went back to work there, and I retired from there for 38 years. So kind of basically the only place I ever worked other than being in the Navy.